Jenny Dell, fresh off the NFL League meetings with our guy, Jonathan Jones, and Lige Duzabel as well in studio with us here. And, well, there is no such thing as an offseason with the NFL.
No, not at all.
There's really not. And thankfully, we have these two with us today. Because
we're always grateful for the content.
You know, and it's nice to have JJ in studio. A lot of times we're chatting with you across the camera. But a lot going on. The hot topic at the moment, Trey Hendrickson. It seems that there's a little bit of miscommunication going on. Hendrickson and the Bengals don't appear to be keeping in contact when it comes to his contract. So earlier the offseason, he was given permission to go seek for a trade, right? Last offseason, he requested a trade. So this is nothing that's new. But then he comes out today and he says, you know, there really hasn't been very clear communication. So he's kind of the last missing piece of the trio of the Bengals.
That's right.
JJ, what is happening over there?
So it's difficult for the Cincinnati Bengals and Trey Hendrickson because you have a guy who just led the NFL in sacks.
Correct.
Right? But he's 30 going on 31. So not usually does a defensive end get paid like that. He's really good at pressuring the quarterback, at getting to the quarterback. He's not so good against the run. And so you don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but if he is, that's a really good trick that pony does. So what is that worth to the Cincinnati Bengals after they took care of T. Higgins, after they took care of Jamar Chase, a year after they took care of Joe Burrow? Well, look, what is the player comp? You're looking at age, you're looking at production. It's Danielle Hunter, who a couple years ago, he signed a 2-year, $49 million contract. So Trey Hendrickson, all right, $25 million average annual value. That sounds nice, right?
No question.
And then what just happened about 2 weeks ago? Danielle Hunter signed a 1-year, $35 million extension.
Correct.
And so what you had as your comp, sort of, then he just kind of got a very large extension that the Cincinnati Bengals are not willing to go to.
I think this is the issue for players once they hit 29, 30 years old, where they see their value as to where their team sees their value. And to your point, we just saw Myles Garrett at 29 years old, only a year younger than Trey Hendrickson.
Very true.
Get 40 per year. So if you're Trey Hendrickson, you talked about Danielle Hunter. There's a clear market for what I should be getting paid, and it should be upwards to $30, $35 million. So it'll be interesting to see what the Bengals had offer him, because if you're Trey Hendrickson, why would you take less? You just alluded to it. Led the NFL in sacks last year, but the year before that had 17.5 sacks too. This defense was abysmal last year, JJ. They gave up over 25 points a game. The way to help those young corners is to have a guy that can get to the quarterback, and you see it right there. Trey Hendrickson gets to the quarterback.
No doubt.
He was the one consistent piece on that defense. So I'm baffled. I liken it to almost like Jerry Jones and how he's doing his foundational pieces, waiting too long to pay them. We saw the two receivers just get paid for Cincinnati. They need to get this deal done with Trey Hendrickson.
Talked about the league meetings. The tush push was, of course, such a big topic. Guess what? We get to debate it a little while longer, at least for another month, right? Well, JJ, out of those meetings, you reported that 16 teams were in opposition of it. So if it went to a vote, we likely could have had a dead heat there before it comes to an actual vote, which maybe will be in May.
Yeah.
Do you expect changes made to the language of the ban?
Yeah, I absolutely do. The Green Bay Packers put a rule proposal in to ultimately ban the tush push. It was a poorly written rule. You talk about immediately shoving the quarterback as he goes over the center. Well, okay, what happens when he goes over the guard? What is immediate to one person is different than immediate to another. So it was always poorly written, but at the crux of it, at least what people said, was that this is about player health and safety. Or do you just not like it? Because the injury rate is at 0%.
Correct.
But they do say, oh, well, the risk of injury, it is going to happen eventually, and it could be catastrophic. And then what do we do? Here's what I can tell you. Whatever the rule ultimately will be written, it will effectively ban pushing a player forward, pulling a player, the pushing and pulling, we will see that go away. And so that will be voted upon very likely in the May meetings that take place in Minneapolis. I'll be there. We'll be reporting right here for CBS Sports HQ. But you have probably, that play right there, that Lige, is that a pretty play?
I love it.
No. Is it a pretty play?
What's the definition of pretty?
I mean, it is an ugly play. It is effective, but it is ugly. And if
I don't think it's ugly.
Okay, well, then we're not going to agree.
Well, this is my thing, and I love how you broke it down at the end, because I sat down with competition committee chair Rich McKay, and that was his thing, the way it was written up by Green Bay, because when you talk about it, there's going to be so many nuances to pushing and pulling a player. Do you throw a flag if Saquon Barkley is running and the offensive line comes behind him and starts pushing? Like, there's so many nuances to this rule, and I think that's why they tabled this vote. You talked about it was dead heat, but it needed 24 votes for this to go into effect. So I'm like most of the defensive coaches that came out and said, you don't punish a team because they do something better than you. Figure out a way to stop it. And when you look at the tush push this year, Philadelphia got stopped 3 or 4 times. Now, again, when Jason Kelce was there, it was almost automatic.
That's right.
But they actually got stopped a few times. So I find it funny that teams are, coming out and saying that, I don't like this tush push. It's not football. It's rugby. It's like a rugby scrum. Yeah. My thing is, the Eagles are just smart because they found a way where they have this quarterback. They have a strong offensive line. They have running backs in the back that are strong, where if it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, we're at the goal line. We're getting in the end zone.
There's no doubt.
And until you can stop it, we're going to continue to do it.
So, JJ, you said you think it passes in some form.
I think that we will. I think we have seen the last tush push. Yeah. I do believe that we have seen the last tush push. The pushing, the pulling, the health and safety, whether it is on a tush push or down the field trying to get a first down and the offensive lineman come and shove that guy in the back. I think that is what we can agree upon probably endangers player health and safety.
Agree or disagree?
Well, I disagree with that because you alluded to it earlier. There's no medical data showing that this is a play that causes a higher injury rate. No, so my thinking, what is going to be the reason for taking it away?
You take away all the pushing and pulling anywhere on the football field. That's where it's going to ultimately be taken away. And so that will effectively ban the tush push. It'll also ban when that guy's forward momentum is stopped, and then you see everybody rush down the field to get him to hurt. That's going to be done as well. Yeah.
All right, so we were talking hot topics off the top, and we can't get through this segment without talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, contractually obligated to talk about
what we do here. So according to CBS Sports, our research team, they put together a pros and cons list. So as of right now, it seems that Aaron Rodgers might end up as a Pittsburgh Steeler. That seems to be his best option out there. There's also whispers about the Minnesota Vikings maybe coming through at the end, but Steelers, that's where we're at. So, JJ, you look at this list, okay, and you got your pros, you got your cons. Is there a pro that outweighs all the cons? And then I'm going to ask on the flip side, is there a con that outweighs the pros?
Look, he certainly did get better with his mobility. We have seen that time and again when guys are coming back from Achilles. Yep. Usually they look better later than they did earlier on. Remember when Kirk Cousins in his first game basically couldn't walk out there on the field, and he improved his mobility. Other things in Kirk Cousins' game went away, right?
No question.
And so if you are a football coach, if you are a football evaluator, you believe that Aaron Rodgers will look more like the second half of the season Aaron Rodgers, and that trajectory and that arrow will be pointed up. Maybe you're fooling yourself, maybe you aren't. He will ultimately be a Pittsburgh Steeler in large part because this is what makes the most sense for all parties. It makes the most sense for Aaron Rodgers, who does not want to go out on his career, a first ballot Hall of Fame career, on that note with the New York Jets. It makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're not going to enter week 1 with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback because they want to get back to the playoffs because they want to break their playoff winning drought. And so it will happen. And Lige, they're not actually playing football right now. Aaron Rodgers likes to take his time. We've been doing this Aaron Rodgers saga, soap opera, whatever you want to call it, for a half decade now. He's going to decide whenever he wants to decide. The offer is the offer. He will be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
And JJ, when you talk about cons, to me, that's the number one.